This weekend saw anti-trans campaigners join forces with neo-Nazis to spread hatred towards our trans and gender diverse communities. We welcome the swift action from this government to consider banning the Nazi salute, but there's more to be done. Right now, Victoria's anti-vilification laws do not protect people against vilification based on their sexuality or their gender. That means someone can stand on the steps of Parliament, as they did this weekend, and spread hatred towards trans and gender diverse people and get away with it. In 2021, following an inquiry, the government gave in-principle support to expand anti-vilification laws to include gender and sexuality and expand it beyond race and religion, laws that could have prevented what happened on the weekend. Our queer community is strong. Will the government urgently expand anti-vilification laws to protect our queer community?
The Premier.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the member for Richmond for her question. There were a number of parliamentary inquiries, one in this chamber and another in the other place. The government has responded to one and will soon respond to the second, and I would draw, in the first instance, the member's attention to the response we've already provided. In terms of these issues, what we saw on the steps of Parliament House on Saturday was an absolute disgrace, not in keeping with mainstream values, harmful, dangerous, hurtful, and needs to be called out in the strongest possible terms. Whilst I don't seek to find a disagreement between the government and the member for Richmond, I think we do need to be careful to make those points and then pause and not rush to finding inadequacies in our law. The attention should be on those people. That's who the attention should be on, and those that stood with them. Yes. Those that stood with them. And it's not for the first time, that we've seen some people, with extremist views on the steps of this building, and it's not for the first time that we have, I'm sad to have to say, had to reflect on those who stood with them. Yes, or invited them, or ushered them through the gardens of this building and through this precinct. It is shameful. It is shameful. What I would say to the member for Richmond is that the government, over its time in office, has, through principled positions and urgent action, always sought to protect our diversity, whether that be cultural and linguistic and faith diversity, but also, of course, our LGBTIQ+ community. We don't have a Minister for Equality for any other reason than good states that care about these things, put in place arrangements to deliver a comprehensive agenda. And Minister Shing in the other place and Minister Foley before her have worked hard every single day. And I wouldn't want to think that the Green political party, given some issues of their own of late in relation to the trans community, would be critical of the government's efforts. Let's work together, all of us, hopefully as a parliament, to protect the most vulnerable in our community. And there can be no doubt that the trans community and indeed the LGBTIQ+ community more broadly do, more often than not, constitute a real vulnerability, or can do. We need to protect those who need protecting. We need to be clear about what's acceptable and equally clear about what isn't. I'm more than happy to have a discussion with any member of this place about these matters, or refer you to the relevant minister for that sort of briefing. Time has
expired. On a supplementary question, the member for Richmond.
I thank the Premier for his answer and for his strong words on principle. I've checked the government's response to the inquiry, and in 2021, this government said that they would consider expansion to the anti-vilification laws subject to funding considerations. However, unfortunately, the government has committed no funds, and therefore nothing has happened. In fact, this Labor government is cutting funding to protect our LGBTIQA+ communities, cutting funding to the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission, reducing staff and asking them to do less with less funding. If protecting rights is subject to funding, could the Premier please clarify how this government will prioritise legislative reform and anti-vilification to protect trans and gender diverse people's rights in the coming budget? Thank you.
Premier.
Well, I'd simply say, with the greatest of respect to the member for Richmond, the budget will be delivered in May, and it will not be delivered. It's not being delivered today. I don't accept the contention that she puts forward that there's been cuts to funding when it comes to these areas. The government has delivered the most comprehensive agenda and program of protections and reforms in the history of this state. And whilst it is pleasing to think that the Green political party have, in the main, been supportive of those measures, there are some who were a moment ago interjecting and perhaps thought better of it and aren't interjecting right now, who did not support that agenda, far from supporting that agenda. So whilst I appreciate the intention of the question, this is not just about laws and funding. This is about calling out abhorrent behaviour and leadership. It's about leadership. And if you're not prepared to show leadership within your own political party, then you're not capable of showing leadership across our state.